everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sorry I didn't have a video last week. I was not feeling it at all and I wasn't sure what I wanted to film, but today I wanted to do another book video. I have finished 3 books so far in October, which is a bit weird because I usually don't read this fast, but I finished 3 of them and I wanted to tell you about it and I just dropped one. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is Hearts in Darkness by Laura Kay. I love this book. It's like, if you're not into the super intense Laura Kay books, this would be the one for you. It's not as intense. It's more sweet, I would say. And this is, I believe, if not her very first book, one of the very first. And I got this a long time ago. I don't know if it says in here what date. Oh, 2013. And it's signed because I got it from her in person when I met her for the first time, and it was so cool. So basically this book is about 2 people that were stuck in an elevator for 4 hours. Yes. One thing that I loved about this book was Caden. He was actually the more vulnerable one of the 2 of them because he had claustrophobia, and he had been doing well with dealing with his claustrophobic tendencies, but couple that with a pitch black elevator and he was freaking out. So this book was half of them being stuck in an elevator and basically Caden using McKenna as an anchor to kind of keep him grounded and not focus on his fear of being in enclosed spaces. Obviously they had like a connection at some point, but I like that it didn't just go straight into them like making out or something. They started talking, they got to know each other, and the fact that they couldn't see each other kind of made their connection more genuine, more organic, because they weren't able to judge each other based on how they looked. And so I really like that. And then the way that McKenna was so understanding and so supportive of Caden whenever he would have a little bit of a panic when he remembers, hey, we're kind of stuck in an elevator and there's no lights at all. The way that she didn't judge him, she was just there to be kind of like his comfort zone, or to make him feel better and make him forget that they're kind of stuck. That was really nice to read. And then, you know, their romance was sweet when it finally progressed into something that they wanted to explore a little bit more. Ooh, what's with my voice? The second book that I want to talk about is Must Love Cowboys by Cheryl Brooks. And I found out that this is second in the series. I'm not sure what the series is called actually. So this is the very first book I've read from this author. I met her in 2016 when I went to the RWA conference. I found this one in my little bookshelf / cube organizer. And I decided, you know what? I love cowboys, and so I'm gonna go ahead and read it. And from the very start, I loved it. I was chuckling to myself. I just loved every single character right from the beginning. Basically, this one is about Tina, who is a computer expert but also a very good cook, and Wyatt, who is a former firefighter turned cowboy. And he has that alpha male quality about him where, you know, the guys look up to him as kind of like the authority figure, but he's not actually the owner of the ranch. He's just one of them, but his opinion matters. Tina was painfully shy and she was completely intimidated by Wyatt. So she kind of started off getting cozy with Dean, but somehow that didn't work out because Wyatt was like, no, that's my woman, I'm gonna go get her. And Tina kind of felt a little bit more towards Wyatt because there was something about him that kind of threw her off balance, as opposed to Dean, where he was just comfortable and he was easy. So that was really interesting, and I love the character Nick. The only thing I remember is that he's young and he loves food. I remember always reading about him kind of badgering Tina, saying, that's nice that you're doing that with Wyatt, but I need food and I need it right now. So that was really interesting. He loves pies, he loves desserts pretty much, or just food in general. So That was really cool. And then there's a character named Bull, and he cannot speak without cursing, which was so endearing. I don't know, it was adorable. He's hilarious. And all the other guys are awesome as well. And the only thing that I would say wasn't as intense about this book is that the climax toward the end of the book wasn't as high stakes as most of the books that I usually read, but it was interesting enough that it kept me reading and reading. That's why I was able to finish it right away. So yeah, if you like cowboys, I would definitely recommend this book. It's so awesome, and Cheryl Brooks is now added to one of my favorite authors. The third book that I wanted to talk about is Make Me Stay by Sydney Halston. I will put it on the screen now. I actually don't have the print copy of this book because I got an ARC ebook copy. Matt was the happy-go-lucky, like super laid-back brother. Kind of going inside his brain and kind of seeing the world through his eyes was really interesting, because yes, he was like always smiling, always, you know, easygoing and everything, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have any feelings, that he doesn't have any struggles within himself and all of that stuff. And the biggest struggle that he had to deal with was losing the woman that he loved, because she just up and disappeared. The beginning of the book started with a flashback, basically when Matt and June got together. And when I was reading it, I was like, huh, June is probably involved in some sort of criminal activity, because she was just really suspicious when she first met Matt. And then fast forward to Matt's present day. He was still looking for her, and then somehow he saw her on the street, and she had a completely different hair, completely different name, and she told him that you must have me confused with someone else. And obviously that kind of threw him off, and I'm like, no, you're absolutely the woman that I fell in love with. Turns out, and this is not a spoiler because it's actually in the blurb of the book, June's real name is April White. And she is a detective or some kind of like an undercover cop. And I was like, okay, one thing I love about a book is when I cannot predict what's gonna happen. And the fact that she's not actually a criminal is awesome. But one thing that I really enjoyed about this whole series, Pull Me Close and Make Me Stay, is how real it is. Usually when you read a romance novel, it's like, okay, you know, the characters are not necessarily gonna say the nastiest things to each other, especially if they love each other. But in this story, Matt called April such nasty names, and I'm like, how can he be so hateful? I mean, that's the woman that you loved at one point, and probably still do, because, you know, when you hate someone or whatever, you care because you have feelings. You're not indifferent. But anyways, something happened that basically made Matt kind of swallow his pride and take care of April, because she needed him at that moment, and there was no one else to kind of be there for her. So it was definitely difficult for Matt, because on one hand he wasn't sure that he could trust April, but at the same time he didn't want anything bad to happen to her. It's amazing. And Sydney Halston is one of my favorite authors, of course. And that is all of the books I've read so far in the first half of this month. I will leave all of the information in the description below if you want to check out any of the books that I mentioned. And if you could, please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!